So anyway, the Flash is rolling along with its crossover event, which isn't much of a crossover event, which is just as well because the crossover event for the CW shows are always terrible. So it's the second episode in, and the Flash has got to prove that he's incapable of becoming a nasty supervillain in the future to this really god-awful version of Despero. So the idea, oh no, he's going to go crazy, and then suddenly there's a case where this robbery takes place, and whoever the villain was has some power to drive people insane. So, oh no, Barry's going to go crazy too. So there's this guard, he goes crazy. Turns out the villain is this woman in a terrible outfit. They just glued some gold glitter stuff on her face, and that's it. But even the Flash's outfit looks really terrible. I mean, it looks more or less the same one he wore before in last season, but I don't know. It just looks really bad. Anyway. So she brain zaps Barry, and he goes crazy, but he doesn't have any memory of what he's been doing. So he suddenly shows up at the apartment or whatever, tears it all up, and the other Team Flash are like about ready to shoot him or something, and he's like, hey, what the hell's going on? And he doesn't remember it doing any of that stuff. Anyway, ultimately he defeats this supervillain Zoltar, or whatever her name is. Thought that was a Space Ghost villain, but anyway, and he's able to do this by bursting a supercharge of lightning, so maybe that has some significance about what happens to him, because after he defeats her and she's locked up in prison and all that, apparently he flips out again and terrorizes the public, and he gets back home because then all of a sudden he's told that Joe is dead and has been dead for 6 months, and he's like, what? Is that right? No. And so they're all convinced he's losing his mind for whatever reason, but you can't chalk it up to the supervillain because she's been depowered and all this sort of stuff, so why is he still losing it? But then again, you could argue that her initial attack did some serious damage to him or whatever. But I don't know, this is starting to look more like there's another multiverse thing going on here. I don't know. He's under investigation for some crime, and that's probably a clue that that's more of an alternate version than another Flash did, and all this type of stuff. And so everything seems to be shattered. So Despero decides, that's enough evidence. You're going to turn bad. I'm going to kill you. And he zaps him, but not enough to kill him, so he's got to zap him again. And then Chester shows up with a device to knock down Despero so the Flash can escape. And then he heads back to the Hall of Justice and meets up with Black Lightning. And Black Lightning is, what's going on? And Barry tells him, injustice. And then Black Lightning has this ominous look on his face like he understands what that's about. Now, injustice, of course, could refer to they're going to lift from the DC series that was based on the video game where Superman goes bad and because, Lois died and all this sort of stuff. That they do their own version of this, but it's the Flash instead of Superman. I don't know. And that somehow Barry's aware of this, or because of the timelines he's seen or what have you. And that might be something. It's the sad thing about it. 4 years ago, they could have taken a plot like this and probably done pretty good with it. Now it's just stupid. It's just these little elements of what it might have been. And then, but then it just moves on with all the typical CW rinse, lather, repeat templates of shows. Case in point, once again, Chester doubts himself because Killer Frost says, hey, we're going to need a weapon against Despero. And Chester, you got to develop it, because that's what Cisco used to do. But Chester has always been a proud pacifist, even though he's developed, they're weapons. They're not lethal weapons. So I guess this is what he thought that, and I'm sure with Killer Frost, it is what she thought meant that a lethal weapon to destroy Despero so he can't take out Barry. But then but I'm a pacifist. And then Allegra is like, you got to stay true to yourself and all that, so the same thing over and over again. It doesn't really matter how you shuffle the deck. It's the same scene. But not as much as usual, I guess. So that's about it. That's the whole show. A little better than the first one, I guess, but not by much. And as far as any guest stars, well, Black Lightning shows up at the tail end of it, so I'm guessing he'll be the guest star for the next episode. The only guest star they had was Supergirl's sister, who phoned it in to give them information about Despero, which she didn't have any. And they lost Star Labs. It was shut down by the city and it looks like there's been some sabotage, but what's going on? So perhaps they're making an attempt at some mystery here to be solved later. So they lost Star Lab because it was in danger of leaking radiation or some crap like that. And so they had to just abandon it all and erase everything because all the knowledge in there about who the Flash is, they couldn't let that fall into anyone's hands. And so they delete the whole thing, and Gideon's gone because they had to. Then again, if this is all some time warpy thing, then they would probably be restored later. But anyway, so that's what they did. If only they could tighten these shows up a bit and utilize story and plot and character development, it would almost have something. But it's a dead show running at this point. No one seems to truly care. But having watched this episode after having watched the second episode of Star Trek Discovery, well, boy, I tell you, the Flash seems really great. So, yeah, Star Trek Discovery is so bad that even the CW looks decent next to it. So anyway, that's it for the Flash so far. I'm guessing Black Lightning will be the guest star next episode, the way the Atom was the guest star for the first one. So with Supergirl's sister being there, I'm guessing maybe they had originally intended Supergirl to be in it, but for whatever reason she couldn't. But I don't know what else they would have done with her there to be a part of this anyway. So, it is what it is. The extremely watered down version of the actual Armageddon story, which didn't involve Despero at all as far as I recall. But anyway, but the same idea of, a superhero's going to turn bad and burn down a building in the future. Appears to be the great Armageddon that they depicted. It's just, they're out of money. They don't have a budget for this show, and it shows. But even if they did, they don't seem to know how to write anything anymore. And that's too bad. So we'll see how badly they do for Armageddon Part 3. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.